Hey, my friends, it's Dave Slomka, and welcome to a new episode of Dave's I Believe in You, where you can find expert guidance from the sources that I've been learning from and a community of people like yourself who want to grow and change. So let me be your encourager. With God, your life can be better. You can change. Your best days are still ahead of you. I believe in you. Please share this podcast with 3 friends who you want to encourage to grow and help them move forward in their lives and make a difference in our world. And if you're finding these podcasts helpful, then be sure to hit the like button or give me some stars. Leave a comment. I would love to hear from you. And with that, let's get started. I've noticed that when life gets difficult, we often lose the motivation to keep pushing forward. Maybe you're struggling to keep going, feeling uninspired, or not even wanting to get out of bed in the morning. Often during these times, we can come up with lists of reasons why we should stop or slack off and just disengage. And our minds fill with the hard things we've gone through, and we justify checking out of reality and really living our lives. In this episode, we're going to check out the podcast from Jeff Sanders on the 5 a.m. miracle. Jeff is a guy who wants to go after life. And this is his interview with John O'Leary, author of On Fire, The 7 Choices to Ignite a Radically Inspired Life. And you're going to want to read this book. John is an amazing storyteller, and he takes this dramatic and painful story and finds the joy and life lessons in it. It's so powerful that after getting about halfway through it, I bought copies for everyone on our church leadership team. We all go through difficult circumstances, but depending on how we see them, they can make us better or worse. We talk about being better or bitter. And through remarkable parents, an amazing community, and good personal choices, John's horrific experience of surviving an explosion and being burned over 90% of his body became something incredibly positive for John. John has a story and a perspective that you need to move from letting your life drift by to embracing every day with joy and passion. The 3 main points that I took away in this podcast were, what does it mean to live an inspired life? And then what are the choices I have to make to get there? And then how do people make a difference in that, living an inspired life? So what does it mean to live an inspired life? Well, first, John talks about how being up and going in your day doesn't mean you're on fire or engaged. You can almost walk through your days in a coma, going through the motions. And instead, we have to take inventory of all we have and be awake in every moment in our lives. We need to stop living in the mundane, angry, and cynical world. And instead, we have to choose to live radically inspired and ensure that your best days really are in front of you. Now, John goes into greater detail on living an inspired life in his book, On Fire, the 7 choices to ignite a radically inspired life. And I'll get the links in the notes for you. But John really unpacks what it means to be on fire in life. And it is very much into knowing who you are and what your priorities are in life. Then you can crush it every day. Point number 2 was, what are the choices that inspire us to live that life? And John asks, look, what inspires you to get out of bed and give your best? Because we need to choose, stop making excuses that this day will be my best day yet. And why not? John has 3 questions he asks himself every day to help him choose to be inspired. And this is the value of daily intentionality that keeps coming up as we're going through these podcasts. So question number 1 he asks is, why me? I have the gift of life. And John challenges not to be a victim and look at what I don't have, but instead realize that life is precious and wonder at why you are here and have the opportunity. This question comes up from John's dad, who suffered a debilitating disease later in life, and yet still maintained this attitude. John himself is scarred and maimed and has a visual reminder every day of why life is hard for him. But instead, he looks at life as a gift, that we are blessed with life, so let's act like it. Question number 2 is, who cares? As in, who cares what other people think? The day is a gift. It doesn't matter what happens or what people think. Instead, I choose to thrive because. And for John, this is his mission statement. It's because God demands it, my family deserves it, and the world is starved for it. So this question comes from author Viktor Frankl, who wrote the book Man's Search for Meaning, about life in a concentration camp. And I'll link to that in the notes as well. John gives us this question, what is your ignition statement, your mission statement for life? Or what John Gordon called your life word in podcast number 2, about one word. If you want to live an inspired life, then know your ignition statement, know your mission statement for life so that you remember why you choose to thrive. Question number 3 is, what more can I do? To make tomorrow better than today, to do better each day. Kind of like the book Slight Edge. How can I do 1% better? And this question John actually got from Jack Buck, the famous baseball announcer. Right after John's accident, Jack visited him in the hospital and learned he was going to die. And he came back day after day to say, "Kid, wake up." And then he cast vision for John O'Leary Day at the ballpark. And this actually lasted for 5 months. Jack had a huge impact with his life, and we can do the same by constantly striving to get better and to serve more. Who can you and I serve tomorrow? What can I do? What more can I do? And John said that by asking those 3 questions, he set the tone for his day. And the third point is this. It's the last one. It's the importance of other people that inspire us to really live. So when Jeff asked John, "How did you choose better instead of bitter?" John shared about lying in a bed with no clothes on and no skin on. He was dying. And he asked his mom if he was going to live. And she didn't sugarcoat anything. She gave him the truth and asked him if he wanted to live. And when John said yes, she said, "Look, you're going to have to take hold of the hand of God and fight. You're going to have to choose, and you're going to have to want it." And 5 months later, when John miraculously got home from the hospital, after all the surgeries and suffering and procedures, he came home to his favorite meal. And his mom wouldn't let anyone feed him. John said, "Look, I can't eat. I don't have fingers." And his mom challenged him that he needed to choose to figure it out. And John said his mom taught him first not to die, but then how to live. Other people helped John to choose better, to live an inspired life. John talks about so many people like Jack Buck and his mom that showed up for him and that taught him you are not a victim and to stop making excuses and start living, to take responsibility for your life and learn from the lessons. It was the people in John's life that helped him take accountability, which gives you the power to take ownership of your life. And that's what I'm building with this podcast community. People who want to encourage each other to take responsibility and live inspired lives. Just some bonus thoughts that I got from the podcast. John mentioned that some people think motivation is fake and it's worthless because it doesn't last. But there are things that we have in our lives, like showering, that don't last, but we know they're still important and that we need to do them every day. John goes back to the inspiration well every day. He admits that inspiration, it doesn't last. And so you have to refill it day after day. But he does that by waking up early, journaling, starting the day with a glass of water, which seems to be what a lot of people do that I'm reading about and learning about, and then pausing to pray and meditate. And then he asks his 3 questions every day. And he says, you can stay fired up by asking yourself, why me every morning? Starting the day with gratitude, living with mission, and daily getting better. And you do all this with faith and great humility. John also mentions that you need to be intentional about what you let into your life and who you let into your life. So tune into inspirational messages and not the negative news. Read lots. Don't listen to the political theater that goes on, and instead listen to inspirational leaders to remind you of what matters. Listen to spiritual leaders and listen to God's voice in your life. John also gets reminded every hour by an alarm he has set on his phone that says, are you where you ought to be? Are you doing what you should be doing? And he knows if he's not, then he can pivot to what's better and what he should be doing. There was lots more that you'll want to hear by checking out the podcast for yourself and certainly by reading his book. Personally, I find my own inspiration to go after each day so quickly fades. And I need to be reminded the gift of life and the potential to thrive, despite the challenges. I also love to hear stories of people who overcome and how they do it. John reminded me of the power of intentionality in my life, the potential impact of having great people around me, and the necessity of knowing your why. Why am I doing what I'm doing? When John talked about his mission statement, I choose to thrive because my God demands it, my family deserves it, and the world is starved for it, boy, that really resonated with me. God, family, and people wanting to grow and change in the world. Next episode, we're going to hear from author Patrick Lencioni talking about change and transition. So many really, really helpful thoughts, especially with all the change going on in our lives right now. If you want more, including the links and notes, then go to daveslomka.com. You can find everything there. And there are people in your life who feel stuck and they want to make a change in their lives, make a difference in our world. Share the podcast with them. Don't forget to leave a comment or review and share what you thought. It is a big help. Let's share the encouragement around and show others that we believe in them. Every day is a good day to grow and change. I believe in you. With God in your life, anything is possible. So let's go out there and make that change.